Testing. At 7:01, Mr. Bradley Shear,
Here.
Mr. James Restivo,
Here.
Ms. Calavera,
Here.
Ms. Melissa Boyd,
Here.
Ms. Kate Massinesi,
Here.
Ms. Michelle Busso,
Here.
and myself, Paula Whitford, present. Please join us in pledge allegiance to the flag. Seal the minutes of executive session.
Make a motion to seal the minutes of executive session. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Next is the disclosure of votes taken in the executive session.
So last week, the school committee met in executive session and announced that a vote had been taken in executive session and that vote would be disclosed at the appropriate time. That time is now. Last week, a motion to authorize legal counsel to offer the position of superintendent to Mr. Michael Pedraza and to negotiate an appropriate contract was made, seconded, and passed 7-0.
Like, what are we supposed to do now?
To bring to the front of the agenda, I need my glasses. School committee business 6B, discussion action, appoint new superintendent. Bring that up to the top of the agenda prior to comments from the community.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for our new superintendent as presented by legal in executive session.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That mo- Aye, that motion passes. Now, that motion-
As our new superintendent of South Kingstown School District.
Happy to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Welcome.
And just so we'll often be saying, hold the mic closer.
Hold the mic closer. Will do.
Thank you.
Soft spoken. We'll check. I was gonna say, Mrs. Meyer, soft spoken. Good evening, everyone. I stand before you humbled and honored. For the past few years, as you know, I've had the privilege of serving in East Greenwich Public School System as assistant superintendent. It's been a truly rewarding experience, but today, a new and exciting chapter begins. I am thrilled to be chosen as your next superintendent. The South Kingstown community has a well-deserved reputation for excellence in education, from inside the classroom to up on the stage and onto the athletic fields, and I'm eager to contribute to that legacy. I've heard so much about your dedicated teachers, educators, passionate students, and supportive families. It's clear that South Kingstown prioritizes its schools and its children, and that is something that I deeply value. While I'm excited to begin, I also know there'll be a period of adjustment. I look forward to meeting each and every one of you, students, teachers, parents, and community members alike. Your input and collaboration will be invaluable in shaping the future of South Kingstown's public schools. And together, I am confident that we can build upon your strengths and ensure even greater opportunities for all students. I thank you again for this incredible opportunity. I can't wait to officially join the South Kingstown family on July 1st. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
I do,
Thank you. Welcome.
I would like to say you just got a big, huge yes from Mr. Beasley, who just so we're clear, you will become very intimate with.
I
So
thank you for.
appreciate it now.
Normally first to the podium, relinquished to me today. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
This is a unique situation in that your new superintendent has worked for both your current interim superintendent and your current interim assistant superintendent. Mr. Pedraza got his start as a social studies teacher at Portsmouth High School, where I was principal. I hired Michael Pedraza. And so did Ms. Meyer. And I could not be happier for him. I can tell you from the first day. And this is different. I'm glad I finally get the chance to speak because I've been ex officio during this entire process. And Mr. Pedraza is a man of integrity, and he's someone who is throughout the time that he worked at Portsmouth High School in the social studies classroom, he was entirely, completely focused on learning. As he was when he was a hockey coach and when he was a track and field coach, he was just entirely focused on learning. Mike, I'm very happy for you. Congratulations and good luck.
Everybody that was involved with the process. We had a great selection committee. They did an excellent job of vetting all the candidates. It was a thorough process, and we tried to be as transparent as possible. I think they did such a great job. We got we had wonderful candidates, and we got to a wonderful choice at the end. So I'm super happy. But I just wanted to make sure I say thank you to everybody that was involved. And thanks to Bob too. He and I worked side by side through the entire process. It's not often that you get to work so hard to replace yourself, but thank you so much for all of your help in this process. And NESDEC really helped as well. They were great to work with. So I just want to say, great process. I think the process matters because you get to a better place in the end when you do have a good process to follow. And I know we got to a great place. So I'm super happy. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
That didn't have an opportunity to sign in for community comments that wants to speak.
superintendent in front of me because you were worried about something I might say. It wasn't going to happen. No, I'm pleased for you guys. Very pleased. I'm just up here tonight to say that I'm very interested tonight in hearing about what your CTE program report and this policy on cell phones. There have been a bunch of articles in the newspapers in the last few months about different schools attempting to reduce the amount of cell phone usage and to various degrees of success. It was also thing, I think it was in Sunday's paper, about the psychological effects of students on social media continually scrolling and how it's detrimental to their brain development. So anyway, I'm interested in that. And there was also a really nice article in the journal about AI, which I'm going to leave with you guys. Maybe you can get copies made and you can pass them around.
Agenda, excuse me, which is the superintendent's report. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Now we can move on to the superintendent's report. Pass that over to Mr. Littlefield.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I'm happy to report that our thriving Italian world language program has produced some award-winning scholars this year in the National Italian Exam Contest, with placing at the state level out of over 400 students in Rhode Island that took the exam, including one of our students who received a first place over thousands of students across the nation who took the test. I was going to have some kind of congratulatory comment that I would read in Italian, but I would butcher the pronunciation, and I know that that's very something very important to our student scholars. So I'm going to ask Dr. McGare to come forward. Along with, I believe you have a member of your faculty with you, Dr. McGare, to recognize our students.
Thank you. We are definitely very proud of these students, and Ms. Lydia Carroll is here to announce their name. I can't think of anyone better to do it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, board, for inviting me to come and announce our winners of the National Italian Exam. Year after year, we have kids doing wonderful on this exam, but this year it's very special. We have a wonderful group of kids that in my 23 years of teaching, it's been about, like, I haven't seen the love and the joy that they get from learning this language in over a decade. So I'm very proud of them. And so I'm happy to be here tonight. And so without any further ado, I'm going to read the winners of this year's National Italian Exam. We have twins that placed in the top 10, Ryan Bates and Brendan Bates. Brendan placed 9th in the state of Rhode Island and Ryan 10th. Sabrina Blaney placed 10th in the state of Rhode Island on the Italian 3 exam. Congratulations. Santiago. And the twins were Italian 2. 10th in the state of Rhode Island, we also have Josephine Denancy, AP Italian, level 4 exam. Congratulations, she is here tonight. Santiago Gudi. Vieni. Okay, and next we have Ryan Barber, placed 8th in the state of Rhode Island, another AP student taking the level 4 exam, Santiago Gudi. Ryan. And by the way, they go by Giuseppina and Ricardo in class. And then we have Kayla Shroka, again, level 4, 6th in the state of Rhode Island. Valentina is not able to make it tonight. She emailed me earlier today. She was sad that she couldn't make it. And then we have Lucia Zunham Allen, placed 5th in the state of Rhode Island, another level 4 student. We have quite a few seniors that did amazing this year, so congratulations. And Andrew Haggerty, Andrea, again, level 4 exam, 3rd in the state of Rhode Island, and he'll be honored on Saturday at a fundraiser dinner in Providence, so. Alex Trandafier, an Italian 2, earned a bronze medal, national bronze medal, and placed 5th in the state of Rhode Island. He scored higher than 70% of the students that took the exam at his level. So congratulazione Alessandro, if he's here. A lot of conflicts tonight. Sorry, they did want to be here. And then we have Nicholas Vallone, Italian 2, national silver medal, and 5th in the state of Rhode Island. And Italian 2, I don't know if Nicola is here tonight. Baseball, that's right. Yep, playoffs, right? Yeah. And then Jillian Colantonio, Italian 3, national silver medal, 3rd in the state of Rhode Island, and she will also be at the dinner on Saturday, receiving her awards. And then we have Abigail Licht, Italian 4, as a sophomore, AP Italian student. She's only spent 2 years learning Italian formally at this high school. 1st in the state, 1st in the school, 1st in the state, 1st in the country. Gold medal. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Thank you so much for having us and celebrating the love of Italian language and culture with these kids. Grazie.
You for coming.
Thank you for coming and congratulations to you all.
Continuing on with my report, I have asked Dr. McGare to be with us tonight for another reason. South Kingstown High School recently submitted their comprehensive local needs assessment to the Rhode Island Department of Education. This is essentially an update on our current career and technical education program. And we recently received word that our program review has received approval for funding for the next 2 years. which is it's a great thing for this to be happening. It takes the pressure off of our CTE folks for some time. I sat with Dr. McGare and our CTE coordinator, Penny Bush, for a run through of their presentation. And I have to tell you, I was so duly impressed with what they have built through their efforts in a few short years. I felt that it is something that really needs to be shared with you. I know you hear a lot about our CTE programs at the high school, et cetera, but to get an overview through this report was I found to be really astounding. And so I asked Dr. McGare to share it with you and for our audience at home. Dr. McGare, please.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting us tonight. As Mr. Littlefield said, I wanted to give you an update on where we are with our CTE programs. And so I'll get into the more technical things, and then I'll turn it over to Penny Bush, who's going to give you more of the things we want to celebrate. So both are important pieces, but I think starting with this, so everyone has a general understanding about it is important. So, okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the comprehensive local needs assessment is something that that is required of school districts to do every 2 years. If you're receiving any type of Perkins federal funding. So Perkins 5, so this is the 5th iteration of it, was passed in 2021, and it supports career and technical education in a variety of ways. And one of the ways is through funding. Each school or district receiving Perkins funding must complete a CLNA, comprehensive local needs assessment, every 2 years. So we did one 2 years ago, and now we're up for doing one again. And it's an opportunity to think about your CTE successes and challenges. And what's awesome, as Mr. Littlefield said, was on May 22nd, we received approval for our 2024 to 2026 CLNA. So that gives us fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26 Perkins funding. So that's outstanding. And just so you know, this is really what funds our programs. So not the staffing, although some of the money does go to staffing, but the majority of it goes into equipment and to materials for our CT programs, not having to come out of the general operating budget. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but our previous CLNA, there were 3 goals. 75% of students in the class of 2025 will earn AP credit, college credit, or CTE credential, and 76% of the class are on pace right now for that. Establish a robust industry partnership with a local partner for our studio art CTE. That one was of our CT programs when we reflected 2 years ago, was the one that didn't have industry partners like the other programs did. And so Hera Gallery has stepped up, and we've got other things, but we're really proud of this particular one because they're celebrating their 50th year of being in existence, and we've got a strong partnership with them where students are actually getting to showcase their work and learn a lot there. So that's really important that we have that real world experience for these students. And restructure our allied health CTE to include pharmacy tech through a partnership with CVS. And we've been able to pull that off, and next year will be the 2nd year that class will run. So that showed that we met these goals. It didn't mean that we're satisfied right at that point, but we are happy to say that we did achieve those goals. So it's time to write our next CLNA, and this is the one that was approved on May 22nd. 75% of students in the class of 2025 and beyond will earn AP credit, college credit, or CTE credential. We feel that this is an important one. It's the 75 comes from the state. That's a metric that they want districts to try to achieve. So we feel that we've done it with one class, or where I should say we're on pace to do it with one class, because some of the CTE credentials come in right around graduation for your class, and they're juniors right now, but on pace for that. And we want to keep this going, class after class, hitting this metric. I think it's really important. Realign our Project Lead the Way computer science CTE so that all 3 required courses have URI credit. So they're all Project Lead the Way courses right now, but what we wanted to do is take one of those courses that's not for URI credit and make it an optional course for students. So some students that have taken some computer science courses prior to entering high school, like in middle school at Broad Rock, for example, they're feeling like they're already past that level. They don't need an introductory course when they get here. So they want to just jump right in and take these college level courses. So we made it so that's an optional course for students who have no experience. They're welcome to take that as a course. We're not getting rid of it. But now every course that they'll take of the required 3-course sequence, and this is important, CTE pathways must have at least 3-course sequence. So all 3 courses are required to be going for URI credit. So that was a big change. They supported that, meaning the state. And then restructure our allied health CTE. You heard that on the last one with pharmacy tech, to include introduction to firefighting through a partnership with the Unified Fire District. So looking to make that allied health even more robust, adding to EMT, CNA, Pharm Tech, trying to add introduction to firefighting as well. So trying to make it more opportunities for more students. The next slide, we have our money. So you can see there that in 2 years ago, we had almost $94,000 in Perkins funding. That's the federal. Perkins special programs. This is a grant that allows you to join with a partnership. So HOSA, which is competitive for students that are in health career occupations. So we are able to pay for them to go to 2 conferences out of that federal grant. So all the kids in those programs, where in the biomedical CT program, were able to go to these conferences for free. So that was a nice feature. State categorical, that's approved every year. The hope is that that continues. That's another big chunk of money that comes in from the state level to help support CT programs. The difference between the Perkins and the state categorical is that state categorical is tied to specific programs. So you might get $30,000 that must be spent on construction tech. Whereas Perkins, we can kind of figure out how we want to spend it in those. Perkins can also be spent to build programs, whereas state categorical is for programs that already exist. And then this past school year, we had almost 87,000 in Perkins. Perkins special programs, which I mentioned to you, we spent on HOSA for those conferences. Perkins Reserve, this is a grant that we wrote to, the goal is to attract someone who is, who might be involved with the construction tech. And if so, this could help to pay for some schooling for them. So that Perkins grant is available, and state categorical, as you can see there too, that was there. The reason for the drop from the 82 to the 64 is nothing that we did. It's just them changing their calculations. The state says this much is going to categorical, and then they decide from there how much goes per student per program. So that can vary from year to year, both up and down. Okay, so reflections for the last 2 years. Penny, this is my last slide. So yes. So yes. Career exploration courses are a way to gauge interest. So good example of that, Pharm Tech. Do we have an interest in this joining as part of a CTE program? And the answer was definitely yes. Intro to firefighting is another example of a career exploration course. Do we have an interest, or is it just something that's going to stay as a course that kids take every couple of years? We don't know. We have 20-something students that signed up for next year. The Union Fire District's been very gung-ho with this, and as a result, we're also very gung-ho about it. So we're hoping that it does fold into the allied health program at some point. They were excited that we already have EMT in our building, because they can see that absolutely pairing well together. All of our programs meet the requirements set forth by the state of Rhode Island, and a couple that I want to highlight are the 3-course sequence that I mentioned before, and meeting the benchmark of 80 or more hours of work-based learning. So this means that they are getting real-world experience, and we can measure it. So at least 80 hours in all of our programs. Our staff are engaged in offering the best CTE experiences for our students. Many of them are involved in extra professional development so that they're even better at it. And most of them are not teachers who went to school to be part of a CTE program. They've just become passionate about this. And so that's always fantastic too. We do feel that we need to increase more males to allied health and biomedical. And so firefighting might be a way to do that. More females to computer science and construction tech. So these are things that we know there are, not just at South Kingstown High School, but in the field as well, that there are discrepancies, but it doesn't mean that we can't do our part to try and get closer to those being equal, and continue to strengthen community partnerships. This is really important. That work-based learning thing goes away if you don't have these community partnerships. So overall, it's been nice to reflect back on the last 2 years, and we're very pleased with where we are and where we want to go too. So I'm going to turn it over to Penny. She had a separate slide deck. And then obviously we're around to answer questions as well.
Good evening. I'm Penny Bush, and I've had the pleasure this year being my first year being in the CTE coordinator. And it's been really exciting for me to show off everything that I've learned from the program. For the last 5 years, I was one of the co-EMT instructors. And so I didn't really get to see everything all the other CTE classes did. And this year, I've been totally amazed and not surprised how amazing our students are. So I'm going to talk about the 7 different ones that we have, just in case you didn't know. So like Dr. McGeer talked about, we have allied health, which covers certified nursing assistant. We have emergency medical technician and biomedical. If we follow Project Lead the Way, but it's also starting to encompass under the allied health as well as science. We also have construction technology. We have computer science, which is also part of the national program of Project Lead the Way. And then finally, we have 2 studio art programs. We have the fine arts and crafts, and we have designer. So I'm just going to share really quick about each one because I could go on and on. I just was trying to point out some wonderful things that our CTE programs are doing. So the CNA classes, they go out into the nursing homes, and that's how they get their hands-on practical experience. That's where they're getting their work-based learning hours. We have been very blessed with our students. Once they complete the program and they get their licensing, they're going back to these partnerships and getting jobs. So it's really amazing. And then they continue on. So if I were to, I think the next slide, I have these kids, I can't even, I'm just like, they're so amazing. The EMT class, they got to go out to the fire academy and experience. They may not want to become a firefighter, but to see that's just another avenue to explore. And they all come back saying, what an amazing experience. They went to the EMT expo where they had the option of going into a cadaver lab, and every single one of them chose to go in, and they were all amazing. The CNA kids had that option too, and they did too. So they're getting these wonderful experiences to explore. And when they're going out and the EMT kids go on ride-alongs. This year we're working with SCEMS. In the past, we've also worked with Charlestown Rescue, and they've gone out to Coventry. They've gone to all different places to do their ride-alongs, and they come back, they share their experiences. They work for the Special Olympics to get work-based learning hours. So they're giving back to the community as well. So the next slide just kind of highlights, we had a couple of our CNA EMT students. Some of the girls, actually almost all the girls that are in the EMT program this year were in the CNA program last year, are licensed CNAs. They're out there working, and they decided they want to continue to pursue learning and doing the EMT program. Lily Manfredi, she ran the whole blood drive and just so passionate about everything. And then Addison, which was even crazier, she had the experience coming to school and she saw somebody get hit, and she pulled over and she kept the person calm, put pressure on the bleeding. So our students are learning and then passing this love and passion on to other people and showing how much they care. Biomedical, Dr. McGeer talked about how these kids are taking part in the HOSA conference. We've had students who earn scholarships from winning at awards at the HOSA conference. And then they're also taking, this is the first year they're taking the biomedical exam, which is preparing them for the career in the real world, having those skills. And if they are successful with that, that shows that they understand the biomedical field and how much it's growing. There are jobs out there. So if this is something that they want to go into, whether it's forensic science, pharmaceuticals, there's tons of careers out there for these kids. Construction. Oh my God. These kids, they built this playhouse, this little boy, and he was so appreciative. It's amazing these skills that these kids have. And they're getting their OSHA cert. They're coming out of this program. So they're coming out of this program with 3 certificates, which means they can go out, and if they join the North Atlantic Carpenters Training Fund Union, that they'll go in as a second-year apprentice. There's no other school in the state that is able to do that. We are the only one as of right now where everybody else, they're all coming out as carpenter's helper, but if they go to this carpenters union, they'll be second-year apprentices because they've got those skills underneath their belt. So we also have a partnership with the Stefano Brothers and the Rhode Island Builders Association. The computer science, oh my gosh, I was just at they went to the cybersecurity summit over at URI. The things that these kids can do. I put a video, but you don't have to play it. But one of our students, the game he created, I'm like, this isn't real. You didn't make this. It looks like a real Xbox game. And the things that they did, it's amazing. I'm just so proud of our kids. And on top of it, they can earn up to 16 college credits once they leave here. So. And then our next one, the art CTs, like Dr. McGarrett talked about, we've established a partnership with the Harrow Gallery, but the kids are also they're putting up their work at Bagels. They're also working with the Rhode Island Archives. So they're showing off their work. They have to make sure their work is good enough to be displayed. They have to learn how to hang it like they are in a gallery and they're the artist presenting it. They have to share it. And if you got to walk the halls the other night for the Night of the Arts, we are so talented. So, and they can they can get credit for an art CTE class up at Rhode Island College. So finally, just really quick, I'm not going to go on forever. The 4 courses that we're offering for career exploration, like Dr. McGarrett talked about, the farm tech, those kids are having an amazing experience. We've had URI come in, the pharmacy kids are coming in to teach the kids and learning with them and understanding what the programs are all about. Going out to CVS, great hands-on experience. Personal training class, they can become a personal trainer. There's a 3-course sequence for them if that's a field that they want to go into. We also, like you talked about the intro to firefighting today, I just took those kids that are possibly going to be interested in going into that program. We walked down to the fire station. They got to see the fire trucks. We talked about what the expectations would be. And the kids were signing up to volunteer. They said that we only had 3 students in the building that were volunteers. They're up to 6 or 7 right now. So I think they're excited about this course coming in. And then the other new one that we're going to open up to is Intro to Becoming a Teacher. So we have a lot of amazing stuff going on in our school. Our students are amazing. And the next slide, I just kind of showed off some of the pictures with the kids and what they do. Thank you for listening. And we do have amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Ms. Bush, we may have some questions.
I want to start out with, I don't have a question necessarily, but Ms. Bush, thank you for the enthusiasm you bring to these programs. It really is, it's incredible to listen to your passion about it, and it just speaks volumes to what's going on in our building. I was fortunate enough last week to be a judge for one of the kids who did the spaceship construction. He was equally as emotional presenting, he was a big tough guy and all of a sudden he was, yeah. So it's very cool and very impressive. I do have a question. So you have a ton, which also, by the way, I would want to invite them to come back over time because we often hear out in the community, do you have do kids do carpentry anymore? You know, are there any, does SK do any CTE programs? And it's like, yes, we have lots. And so listening to what we already have. Also, though, the question comes in is how do you get more, right? And because we want to be competitive with the other schools and what they offer, what does that look like as far as if there is you know, if we have a wonderful program of studies, but how does it turn into a CTE program?
So you have to have all the courses up and running before you can actually move to a CT program now. So when we applied for 4 of them, it was at a time where the state was a little more lenient about approving it. They at the time they took you at your word, like you would build these, and we lived up to our word at that point, but they don't do that anymore. So now you have to actually build the program first and then apply for it. So what we had talked this year, Penny had mentioned, we noticed we have a lot of these ideas that people want to pitch to us, and then we try them. So this career exploration idea was Penny's, like to label them as that and put them all together into there. And so that's the idea, is like, where is it that we might want to look at the next possible CT program? So trying in our first URI education course, having the firefighting. The firefighting is a natural place where it could fold into allied health, but you know, something like, you know, the personal training, we'd explored that at a particular time, and maybe that just stays as career exploration. But we're also talking about the possibility, and this would be something I would bring to you in the fall, about a green business course from URI. So like trying all these different things. If there's interest, and then, wow, I want to take more courses, then I think you might be able to find natural pathways or natural CTE programs. So it starts with the career exploration idea, and I think labeling it that way makes a lot of sense too. Yep.
East. And your passion speaks volumes. Thank you for that. You too, Dr. McGarry. So just last night, I was coming back into town with my cousin, and I pointed out to her, I said, see the well? Our kids built that, you know, when some idiot ran it down. And so it was after dark, it was quite late. And she actually, like, she was driving my car. She actually stopped and backed up a little bit and said, really? Your kids built that? I'm like, yes. Also, Thursday, we had school committee business. And I told Miss Saborio I couldn't do the Night of the Arts. And she and Dr. McGarry said, go do it now. Get an early sneak peek. So I got to, like, I think I was walking through those halls and I'm reading the descriptions on these pieces of artwork from the perspective of someone who has trouble drawing a straight line. And like, it says Art 1. I'm like, these kids are freshmen. This is what they're producing. I was just completely blown out of the water. And thank you both I know these things don't happen by magic. I know there's a lot of behind the scenes work that has to go on in order for these things to happen. So thank you to both of you for that, and to all our teachers who are, you know, pedal to the metal to make sure that these programs flourish. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming out. Just gonna continue on with my report quickly, a little bit more recognition. Last Wednesday, we had a dual ceremony at Peacedale School. The first ceremony was a kind of a ribbon cutting for our new playground, which is awesome. And it made for lots and lots and lots of happy children at Peacedale School. And I can attest from personal experience that the big slide that you take from the top of the structure is no joke. The second was a surprise announcement where we had the whole school community outside on a beautiful morning, attended by all of the faculty, several of the past winners of the Teacher of the Year award, and the honorees' family, to announce that Ms. Pamela Dolan was South Kingstown's Teacher of the Year. It was a beautiful day. It was a great day for Peacedale School. We have extended an invitation to Ms. Dolan to attend a school committee meeting in the not too distant future for her to receive proper recognition. And she's a very deserving award winner. And I want to thank all those who were involved in her selection. Special shout out to our high school band under the direction of Mr. Benz, and the Broad Rock Middle School Band under the direction of Ms. Jenny Collins and Eric Drew for their participation in the Memorial Day Parade yesterday. And at the subsequent ceremony. It was just great seeing them out there on a beautiful community morning. Finally, I was really happy to witness that senior send-off today at Peacedale School. Buses filled with soon-to-be graduates pulled up, and they walked through the hallways, greeted by many of their former teachers and the students of Peacedale School to congratulate them and wish them well as graduation draws near. And finally, on our personal action form tonight, you will notice a retirement announcement from Ms. Patricia Gentile. She's a teaching assistant at Peacedale School. Back in 1989, Ms. Gentile was working in the medical field as a certified nursing assistant and decided she'd like to give working in schools a try. And fortunately for us, she decided to stay, and she's been with us for 35 years, first at South Road School, then Matunic, and then finally to Peacedale School. We wish her the very best, and we will be recognizing her next month along with all the rest of our retirees. And this concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you.
But Mr. Littlefield, do we have the video of you in the slide?
I can tell you that one exists. If it ever, Mr. Rapport, makes its way into cyberspace, there will be heck to pay.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay, next item on the agenda is school committee business. A discussion and action on personal job performance, NEASK and SKESP. Okay, I'll repeat myself. So we're going on to school committee business. We're doing a discussion and action on personal job performance for NEASK and SKESP layoffs and now renewals.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendations on personnel.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes.
And I'd like to record for the record, I'm abstaining from that vote.
We'll call Mr. Gare up to the podium to walk us through that.
Um, as we were going through the school year, and I think my teachers would certainly back me up on this one. There was something that just seemed a little off in the first semester. I could tell that teachers at South Kingstown High School were a little more agitated than normal about things. And so we eventually what wound up happening was we had a discussion. And the thing that seemed to be bothering everyone was cell phones. So we had always had a procedure in place at the high school where you keep your phone away, and there are times where you can take your phone out, and that's okay. And so something over the last couple of years has really shifted where students are unable to do that. And we're talking about the vast majority of students, not just like not just a handful. So while you have procedures in place, like if you do this and there's, progressive consequences and so forth, you can't really do things like that with an entire school, because then it's just not, you're past that point of trying to fix it with consequences. So I had some teachers approach me specifically about some bags that students put their phones in, and to look into that. And so what we did was we put a patch on things for the school year, which was that students would put their cell phones into like caddies at the front of classrooms, which Mr. Littlefield certainly pointed out to me, like, that we don't love that, because that means that we're sort of taking possession of these very expensive phones. And so the Band-Aid needed to happen because we needed to get really focused on teaching and learning. But ultimately, we don't feel that it can be the procedure going forward, because it's us taking, we're not touching the phones, but we're kind of taking control of those things by putting them where they are. And there's a number of school districts that do that, and it has certainly made things better this year, but it's not exactly where we want to be with a full focus on teaching and learning. And if you look at the highlighted part there at the top there, teaching and learning are the primary reasons we have school each day. The purpose of kindergarten through 12th grade policy is to minimize the distraction of cell phones during the school day, so the focus can be on teaching and learning for everyone. What we did was we put together a committee. It had some students from the high school. It had some teachers from the high school, myself, and an administrator from elementary, an administrator from middle school, and some teachers from the middle school. And we worked on drafting a policy. We spoke with another school district, Central Falls, that already has this in place for their middle school and high school. We felt comfortable after conversing with them that this is something we would put in front of the school committee, because ultimately it's the proposal is for a K-12 policy. Because believe it or not, this starts in like 3rd grade. And so they run into, yes, that's why we had, so this is these, and in some ways it's a bigger distraction, believe it or not, as early as like 3rd grade. So it starts early. It's having the same procedures in place through a policy, so that no matter what school building a child is in, the things are the same, is something that our group felt would be worth putting in front of the school committee. So Ms. Boyd was kind enough to put us in front of the subcommittee. We did go there, and I should say I went there and presented this policy. They had a few changes, which you can see highlighted in blue there, and the vote was to move it here for a first read. So just taking you through a few key points here, and then by all means ask questions. So we had a lot of discussions about what would, if we moved down this path of bags, it would look a lot like this. Students walk into the school, and the first thing they do is these bags are opened by a magnet that we have. It's proprietary. So you would put them out in the morning, and then you take them out, and then you put them out at the end of the school day. So the bags tap open, and the kids put their electronic device, cell phone, into it, and it stays in there all day. They keep it themselves. They don't turn it over to anyone. And then they go through the day, and on the way out, they tap it open and they remove it again. And then the expectation is the same thing would happen the next school day. So that's the way it works in general. We had a lot of discussions about watches. We had a discussion about other things, and we landed on that cell phones is really what the main issue is. And a lot of that has to do with the biggest distraction for the kids is social media. While texting happens, while other things happen, the big piece that we're worried about is just that draw to the social media. And one of the things that is linked in there in this draft here is that the closer the phone is, or the more accessible the phone is to students, the more distracted by it they are. Same thing for adults, by the way. It's not just the kids. So if it's in your pocket, it's less distracting than when it's on the table. It's less distracting when it's in a bag. It's even less if it's in another room. If it's completely inaccessible, it's substantially less. So basically, the harder it is to get at, the less distracting it is to you. So it has like the different what a violation of the policy would be in there, because unfortunately those are part of the things that we have to have and for like to make sure that these things happen. If a student were to not be majorly disruptive with their watch, then that could go in there because the bag would be big enough to fit that in there. It just wouldn't be a required thing. Logistically too, when you think about students walking in at the beginning of the day, and let's say there's 2 entrances to the high school that they're coming in, Broad Rock, same type of thing. You have adults with eyes. It's going to be harder to watch them put multiple things in. Watching this, it's a very simple thing. Watching them put their phone in the bag is a lot easier, and then you're making sure that that's happening. It reminds me a lot of when we had to do the temperature checks every day when they came in the door. They got used to it very quickly. I don't want to go back to that. Thank you. But yes, that was something that I remember we just got very comfortable with, and the kids did too. They knew how to line up and all those things. So, well, we don't want to go back there. The reality is they'll get used to, if this were to go through, they'll get used to that procedure as well. And we did talk to Central Falls. They told us we're off of February vacation. 8 students in the entire high school forgot their bag, the bag they had. So like that was it, that all they had to deal with. That's how ingrained it had become in their school system. There is also on there a link that shows like a PBS news story that is about them and what they've seen for a difference since they've gone through this. Obviously, like anything that we give them, that this is our property, the idea that they hold on to it. And there are, a number of things in there too. I don't want to waste everyone's time by reading through them. On the last page, I highlighted some things in yellow because I think they're important. They don't necessarily have to go in the policy, but they're like, to me, things to draw attention to conversations. So lost pouches. So what I heard at the policy subcommittee, and I think we were already on the same page, was that if students lose them for repeat offenders of losing them, we would deal with it the same way we would any other, like a textbook or a laptop. If you continue to do it, same type of procedures in place for that, because this is now starting to look like you're doing this willfully as opposed to it accidentally fell in the toilet. That's Velcro pouches, that's something that I just want to make people aware of. There are students that use their cell phones for something like checking their sugar levels. So there's Velcro pouches that are available. And so in that case, it would just be, you will be allowed to take it out for that medical need. And then the expectation would be go back in there. You're taking it out for anything else, then obviously you'd be subject to any type of similar consequences to students who are not abiding by the rule by not putting in the bag. So just something there. Emergencies. So, because that is something we actually talked to the SK Police Department about this one. So is it helpful or not helpful in the case of when, if there's, let's say, a lockdown, or if we had to do an evacuation? Do you want students to have their cell phones? And the answer is it's like 50-50. Sometimes they get really good information from students. Sometimes they get terrible information from students. It depends on the situation, and you can't predict. So I think the easiest thing to do would just be in our to-go bags or in classrooms, you have those devices available. So if need be, students could open them up in the case of an actual lockdown or in the case of an actual evacuation. Hopefully those things never come to pass, but things that we certainly need to think about. Because that did come up in conversations that I've had with parents in regards to what if. So we asked the SKPD, they were honest with us, and that was our solution there. And then students unwilling to turn their phone over and no pouch. So we asked Central Falls this very tricky question. And they said the only way that it works is that when that happens, the student goes home and they have to come in with a parent guardian, and there's a conversation about how this can no longer be the case. So That is something they said that having that standard, and I know that's not the best because it's, we don't like to send kids home, but in that particular case, if they don't get on board, then the whole thing becomes like, well, that person got away from it, that person got away with it. So it is something that we're saying what's more important is that we're focused on teaching and learning and making sure that cell phones are not a distraction. So. And then, like I said, there's some, and that last one that's highlighted in blue came up at policy subcommittee, that link at the bottom, that was how do these things work? And so I intentionally, Alexis, your suggestion, didn't put the actual company name in there because again, these things, you don't want that, but you can learn more about how those yonder bags work. And thank you to both of you, Mr. Kilpatrick, and to Alexis as well. The reality is that like they were able to find funding for us. It didn't come out of the general budget. So if this were to go through, we have the $50,000 we would need to get this up and running. It would be a cost of replacing like a class worth of bags a year, but that would just have to be built into the general operating fund. There right now, I believe they're $30 a bag is what they amount to. So we do have ESSER funds that would pay for to get us off the ground if the school committee wanted to move through with it.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. McGarr, for coming and sharing it with the entire committee tonight and the community so that they know this is out there. It's certainly, it has come to me as a school committee member that teachers, educators, parents, this weekend, oddly enough, a parent asked me, when is there going to be a cell phone policy? I said, listen, Tuesday night. And so I am very grateful for your work and the administration team and others who helped to bring this forward. One of my primary concerns was definitely the emergency piece. So I think you explained that well tonight, but also in policy committee that in addition to having those to go or emergency bags, that in addition per classroom, there could also be another unlocking device potentially available should South Kingstown decide that that was important. And so that made me feel comforted as a parent and also sort of understanding how these systems work. So thank you for clarifying that. And I think the other question I heard a lot from folks was on the budgetary piece. So I appreciate also getting that information.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up because I think it's a serious concern and I've also seen phones at younger grades than I would have expected. I think one of our elementary school principals is here. I think he's seeing them. My elementary school child came home with a first grader cell phone one day. His friend on the bus just gave him his phone to take home from a first grader. So they certainly have them. I'm a little concerned about the pouches going to the very youngest kid, like a kindergartner who maybe doesn't have a phone and having the expectation of them kind of holding on to this thing all year and it's their responsibility. And like my kids at that, like they repel all their personal belongings. They end up everywhere. And so I feel at those very youngest ages, I'd like to see some flexibility to say the parent, I'm going to opt out of having this thing. I'm going to promise that my kid's not going to have a phone. And if they do, we're going to deal with it. But not every kindergarten kid's going to have to put this pouch in on the first day and expect it to sit there and I don't know what maybe the elementary school principals might give us guidance about what grade we really need to issue one and have the expectation that every single kid keep that all year long. I don't know if you.
Yeah, so at the elementary level, I think the idea would be that it stays in the classroom. So when they come in, they unlock it in the classroom, put it in the pouch and it stays there. As opposed to the going home part would be more middle school, high school. I think that's what we're looking at. Yes, it's a good question. Thank you.
And so then is there like a row of these devices on the way out? So we're not, and you had mentioned the temperature checks sort of being similar to this sort of in and out, but are we creating crowds or are there just a whole bunch of these unlocking devices on the way out the door?
So if we moved with this, the company actually helps you to get all that set up.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually comes with some of them supporting its schools so they can figure out the best way to do it logistically. And that's coming from them doing it at concerts, doing it at schools and other places where like they've learned this is the best way to move crowds through. So that is a great question. We don't need a huge backup.
And are the bags blocking the signal so that So the phones might be ringing in that bag in the classroom and, or making a noise or something while they're.
Yes, and so, obviously what you're telling them to do is turn them off, but that's all part of the logistical stuff that like it needs to get worked out over the first couple of weeks is that part, yes. Because observing them turning it off is not as easy as observing them put it in. So all of these logistical pieces absolutely need to be worked out.
So my only other question is about the other devices. So one is there's teacher discretion about headphones and earbuds. I think there are some kids who have accommodations around using those devices. So I'd like to see some language that acknowledges that that's not discretionary for the teacher. If the kid, if the student has headphones or earbuds as, or I think as an accommodation in a 504 and IEP, that's not discretionary for the teacher to allow or not allow it. And I guess some of the watches are basically just small phones. And I worry a little bit if it's up to the teacher's discretion that the students are going to say, well, in this class, I can wear my watch and in my next class, I can't wear it. And I'm taking it. It seems confusing. And I don't know if you had a discussion about that too, or
Yeah, I could tighten up that language. The discretion really is more, okay, so the earbuds part, that you're absolutely right, that we are following 504s, we're following IEPs. I'll look through, I'll clean that part up to make sure that's not there. The discretion part, I think with an Apple Watch, for example, would be more of a building-based decision. The student is very distracted in class.
Yeah.
We're referring, that was another part that we heard. It's like, you kind of have to have a team that is in charge of that's their job in the building. And so that needs to get referred to that team. Then the team would make a decision and say, okay, you're required to put your watch in there. As opposed to class, like you said, that's too hard. We're trying to take that away so that that our teachers not fighting this. Our teachers are focused on teaching.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. So we can tighten that up too.
okay. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
So I'm just curious, the articles and everything I read talk about schools using the pouches at the secondary level. And do you know of any schools that use the pouches in their primary schools? Because I can understand the middle school and high school level. I'm not so sure that the K through 5th grade the pouches are going to be that effective with, I mean, it seems like teacher control may be enough to keep the elementary school phones at bay. So I'm just curious because other districts seem to only use it in the secondary schools.
So the company has certainly said that it's used at all different grade levels. So because we brought that up to them, they said there are districts that are using it there. And what we were hearing from Dr. Borden was that it would be something that teachers would appreciate if the students that bring them in would be able to set them aside and then they're out of their something we're not talking about for the rest of the day. Put in the bag, put in your backpack, and then it's not an issue. So I think it's more of like that they just don't have to worry about it. It's taking some pressure off of our teaching staff at any grade level and saying, let's focus on teaching and learning, not that. Yeah.
So I've had the experience as an adult making use of these bags at many, many concerts, comedy shows, many public events. They're amazing. It's a completely amazing difference of an experience in an event when you are not tethered to this monstrosity. I've come to despise it, even though I have it right here. And that's why I hate it. Right. But I'm like, if my mom's texting me, I got to check. I'm still like, I'm like my daughter when she was in 9th grade. But so I love this. I think it's great. I personally find the arm devices far more intrusive, offensive, distracting, because it immediately removes you from engaging in the present. When you're sitting there and you buzz on your arm, whether you acknowledge it or not, it's pulling you out of the present moment. So I would love to see at some iteration, the watches go into the bag also. You can go to a concert with 25,000 people and they're moving you in and out like there's nobody's business with the little devices. And like you said, as long as it's set up properly. I love this policy. I never thought 5 years ago, if you told me I would say that, I would have laughed. But we navigated these waters kind of in I think when it was like 2017, 2018, and that's when the foot racks in the door, kids were putting, and again, like to your point, when we first implemented it, it was people were outraged that it was being implemented, but once it happened and kids got used to doing it, they just did it. And then COVID hit and the world flipped upside down with technology, and then it became it's again attached to you. So like I said, I think it's wonderful. And if adults can do it at 20,000 person event, I think kids can do it in a space where they're supposed to be learning. And like I said, at some iteration, maybe not right out of the gate, but I would love to see the other devices minus the earbuds, to Mr. Shear's point, also be put into that pouch as well. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's something that could happen down the road. What I want to do though, if the school committee elects to move forward with this, is that want to make it something that's manageable to start, right? And I think if we try to do too much, then we might wind up in a situation where we're not successful. So phones and bags is like an easy thing to communicate to people. It's an easy thing because then you start to get into, well, I don't have one of those. It's like the phone thing, pretty much everyone's got one. And there's just so you know, there is a waiver that for families that do not have them. It's not done in a public way. It's done like basically in the principal's office. Like I attest that my child does not have one, and then obviously there would be nothing to put in the bag at that point. They're still required to bring the bag. We don't make a big deal about it. That's what Central Falls was doing, and that's what the company recommends. So it's pretty easy to do that part. But they must attest that they have not given their child a cell phone.
As far as the procedural items to also discuss, so the Velcro pouches that's, I think, imperative for, as someone who helps a member of their family navigate the continuous glucose monitor, that's huge. That's a definite lifesaver for folks who have to monitor their blood sugar levels. I think the concern around emergencies, again, it's like making sure that we have enough of the unlocking bases. And I kind of firmly believe with the last item, the students unwilling to turn over their phone and no pouch. I agree with the feedback you received from Central Falls. And it's almost like you have to go a little harsher and could potentially lighten up versus being a little bit more lenient and then trying to lock down after. I think it's smarter to kind of go with the more restrictive policy first, and then it can be adjusted if it needs to be to lighten up. So I like it.
Dr. McGarrett, I also, and Ms. Boyd, I also am really thrilled about this policy. The educator in me, I used to be able to say to my college students, I don't want to see your phones, put them away. And it worked. It made me crazy this year because it didn't work. So I'd like to have a supply of bags I could bring to class with me, but I can't. So my concerns are similar to Mr. Shear's with regard to the students who have accommodations, with regard to the earbuds. And I don't need an answer to this question, but I just want to put it out there. My concern with regard to that is how quickly the case managers get the accommodations out to each individual teacher each year. I've been in a situation where it's been over a month before I get accommodations, and you certainly can't allow the necessary accommodations if you don't get that documentation. The medical needs, I'm in total agreement. I would prefer to see those unlocking mechanisms in each classroom available to the teacher in the case of an emergency. And I have a question on the students unwilling to turn in their phone, so I want to make sure that I'm clear on what you mean here. A student that comes to school and says, I forgot my pouch. Then the requirement for that student is you have to turn your phone into
To the main office on that
To the-
particular, yep,
on that particular day.
yes.
So this would apply to that student who says, no, you're not taking my phone. Perfect.
Yep, only in that case, there is an out and like I said, the Central Falls had 8 students coming off of February break. It became a situation where those 8 students turned theirs over and they remembered, I assume they remember the next day because they did not seem worried about it. So,
Yes, and I also agree with what Ms. Massananti said about, being tougher in the beginning. Sorry, but I went to college in the days where they told us not to smile and not to come to school without a tie until after Christmas. You got to be tougher in the beginning. So thank you very much to everybody who worked on this, because I think it's something we need to consider.
Thank you.
thank you.
You know how I feel about
Yeah.
this.
Yes, I do.
I'm right on it. Ms. Boyd.
One more thing, Dr. McGuire, and I think the timing is fantastic in having a first read. So my hope is to have and ask this body for a second read in the near future, because it's my impression. The hope would be if this were approved and with purchases made, that you would have time to inform parents, inform teachers, talk about these policy issues and procedures. Is that correct in terms of that's the hope of putting this in front of the body now?
Yes, and because that would give us the summer to prepare.
Just one last thing before you go, on the procedural items to discuss section, I would just like to see those broken out into like paragraphs of their own with exactly what we're going to do in those situations. I think the suggestions are good. But just like have for a second read, if we're going to put this as an actual policy in our books, I'd like to see those, just as actual paragraphs. That's it. Thank you.
Got it.
I just had one question too, because I believe I heard you say that we would use ESSA funds to be able to make this happen. Okay,
That's correct. Yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passed.